Hi, I'm Beth. I'm back today with a new video for my V.I.P yoga series. V.I.P is Variations on Individualized Practice. So this short video will be tutorial-like in nature. You can try to follow along if you like. I'll be moving rapidly through the different variations, giving you an opportunity to learn things that you can try on your own mats when you're practicing with videos in yoga class or whenever. So we'll be doing variations of Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2 today. We'll be using lots of different props. We'll be varying the pose standing, seated, all kinds of ways. As a reminder, you can mix and match the variations we try. So something we try for the arms and the legs, you can mix and match as fits your body. And we're doing some variations. We're not doing every possible one over the sun, as much as possible to give you an idea of how to adapt the posture to your body. That is a functional yoga practice. All right, come join me on the mat. So I usually start with showing how the posture is traditionally taught. This is the most frequent version of the pose that you will see. So you get a sense of how it looks. This doesn't mean how it should look, just means how you might most commonly see. So for Warrior 2, you'll see my toes are facing you to start. I'm going to mirror you and take my left toes out. It'll be your left toes straight out to face the short edge of your mat. And then my right toes will stay pointing toward you or maybe turned in just a little bit. My legs are nice and wide. In fact, I'm going to scooch them a little bit wider, really having a strong base. And it might feel a little unstable, but wider is actually a stronger base in this pose. And then I'm going to begin to bend the front knee so that it comes somewhere over the front ankle. Now, notice if your knee rolls in or out, find the most stable place. That's usually pretty much over the ankle. And as you bend that front knee, you'll notice the torso wants to start leaning forward with it. So you can keep your torso, your ribs, centered over your hips, weight evenly in both feet, and particularly pushing into the outside of the bottom foot. Then raise your arms into a T shape, stretching wide apart across your front body, your back body as well. And finally, turn your head to glance over your middle finger over the front knee. So that is Warrior 2 pose. The first thing that we can start to vary is the arms. I'm going to come back into the pose, keeping the same shape in my legs. And then this is version 1, keeping the arms right at the hips. Sometimes I like to practice this version, encouraging my hips to sink down into the pose. Version 2 is placing the hands at heart center. And you'll notice I'm looking at you now, so you can also vary where the head is placed. Traditionally, we look over the front leg, but it's fine to keep the head centered or even looking back, and we'll do that with the next variation, which is a cactus arms, bent arms. I can look toward the back arm if I like in this version. And I'll be bending and straightening a few times. This is a lot of work. Actually, I'll flip around and do the other leg, give the other leg a little work. So bending back into the pose. Coming back to the traditional version, and a simple variation is just to flip the palms up. And wow, that felt really nice on my shoulders. So it kind of gives you a little shoulder massage to flip the arms up that way. We can also lift the arms overhead to any degree. So we did bent arms. You might do a V. You might come all the way overhead. All right, and the last version with the arms, I'm going to grab my strap. And you can use anything that's long, like a belt or a tie or even a dog leash. I'm going to hold the strap behind my body, and I'm going to reach out, pulling on the strap, pulling my arms, pulling my shoulder blades apart. So this version simply activates the arms a little bit more. I'm definitely feeling a little more energy. You might even see my arms shaking a little bit. All right, I'm going to come up. I'll actually hold on to the strap to show you the first leg variation with the strap. I'm going to flip my toes around, going to the other side. You can go back and forth. As I said, this isn't really a follow along as much as a workshop, so feel free to pause and play around with any of these variations. I'm going to bend into the front knee. And I'll get to this in a moment. So taking the strap, I'm going to take the strap under the back thigh and hold it in my back hand. So as I bend into the front knee, as I push into the outside of the back foot, I really want to be lifting this back thigh. So using the strap can help encourage me to lift the back thigh. And I can do a little one arm variation if I like. You can always use just one arm rather than both arms as I sink down into this version of the pose. I'll put the strap aside. Next, I want to talk a little bit more about where the feet are placed. So in our warrior poses, we often hear heel to heel alignment. So you see my front heel is approximately in line with my back heel, or sometimes we hear heel to arch alignment, front heel in line with the back arch. That's fine if that works for you. That might help or might make you feel too unstable. So it could help to scooch the front foot out wider. You see I'm going out to the edge of my mat with the front foot. My back foot is a little bit more toward you. That gives me a little bit of a wider stance in my pose. And then I can take any arm variation with that. So that's one version. The other way is to come a little shorter. So this time I'll go back to that. You'll see I have that heel to heel alignment. And I won't take my front leg out as far. Maybe I'll go about 3/4 of the way. I'll bend the front knee. Now, with this version, when you bend the front knee over the toes, you just want to make sure you don't have any knee pain. This might be a very safe place to be if you don't experience any knee pain or discomfort and you feel stable pressing into the bottom foot. Or you can take the foot out a little further so that your calf can remain vertical, your shin remains vertical or perpendicular to the ground. Again, sink down into this version of the pose. Any arm movements that you'd like. And then come up. All right, next I'm going to show you a few versions with the chair. So I'll grab my chair. The first way I'm going to show you with the chair, actually let's get to, then we'll do the chair. Trying to decide between the chair and the wall. We'll do the chair first, then we'll get to the wall. So the first version, you'll see I have the back of the chair facing you. This is just a simple folding chair. So that's what I recommend, a simple folding chair, but a dining room chair with no arms will work too. I'm going to straddle my chair. I'll go this way this time. Take my legs into the same position. And you see I'm above the chair and I'm really just using the chair for a little bit of guidance, for a little bit of balance and stability as I do the pose over the chair. So in this variation, my hands will stay right here. And then I'm going to flip the chair around and I'll do it seated on the chair. So there are a couple ways to do seated on the chair, maybe more than a couple. I'm going to bend my back leg out. Straighten my back leg out, bend my front leg, and I'm on the very edge of the chair. Now, in this version, I really can stretch the back leg out. I feel even more of a stretch in the back leg than I do in the standing version. It's a really good example of how using a prop does not necessarily make the pose easier. I took gravity out of it, but I'm getting much more of an inner thigh stretch. And then the other way I'm going to show you to use the chair is just to slide so that the front leg, the back of the calf is more right against the chair. So I slid back in the chair a little bit. That actually decreases the intensity on my back inner thigh a bit. So you can try both chair versions and see what works for you. All right, I'm going to put the chair back aside. And I'll start incorporating another prop, a block. And this is, again, a version that can actually make the pose a little bit harder depending on how you use it. I have a couple blocks here. They're slightly different widths. This is the standard block that you see in most classes. This is a little bit thinner one. You might want the thinner one for some of what I'm going to show you. I'll show you that one first. One of the first variations we can try is front leg on the block. So I'm going to take my back foot first. And then front foot on the block. Now this is a squishy foam block. So as I press into the squishy foam block, I'm a little bit more off balance. That's one of the things that this does. It also raises my bottom leg or my front bent knee off the ground more. Just changes the feeling of the pose in my body. Now as we do these variations, I'm not showing any arms. Remember, you can always vary the arms any way you want to add in from what we already did. All right, so another way to use the block is at the wall. So I'm going to come over to the wall, and we can use the block to help us stabilize the bent leg knee. So one of the ways to do that is to be right up against the wall in your pose. So you see I'm opening out into my pose, and then I'm finding a place on the wall, somewhere on the outside of my knee or my thigh, where I can press into the block. So that helps activate the muscles in my legs a little bit more. I can take the arm shape if I'd like. So that's one version to play around with. Another one, I'll have to turn away from you for a moment, but I'll tell you where I'm going to put the block, is right here. Either this way or this way. You can decide how far away from the block it needs to be for you, or the wall. So let's try it this way. Toes toward the wall. Actually, I think I need the short way. Toes toward the wall. There we go. And then in this version, you can nicely put your front hand on the wall. Now I can really focus on sending that front leg forward. And if you find that you are leaning into the pose, this version can help you, give you the energy to push away from the wall a little bit. You can stretch both arms out. This version feels really good. I don't practice this a lot, but it feels really nice. It's always nice to change things up in our postures. You might not feel like you need a variation, and yet you can still benefit from practicing some of these variations. All right, let's check my list to see where we are. All right, we're going to go down to kneeling. So the kneeling version of the pose, if standing isn't accessible for some reason, or you just want to practice in a slightly different way, the kneeling version can be fun. We start standing kneeling, take one leg out to the side in a bent position. So we're in kind of a 90 degrees here. And then, you see, I say scooch a lot, start to scooch that foot out and lean in that direction, or push your leg in that direction. Knee goes out of the toes. As I glance down, I can still see my big toe, part of my second and middle toe in that direction. And now I'm feeling this a lot in my hip flexor, really getting a nice stretch there. Can reach out with the arms. Another great option to try to vary things up a little bit more. All right, I think the only thing we have left to do is to do a lying version of the pose. So I love lying versions or recline versions of any standing postures. It's a way to help our body get into the shape without having the influence of gravity and taking some of the strength element out of it. Yoga is great for building strength. Sometimes to learn the shape, we need to take that out of it for a few times to practice it a little bit more. I'm going to move these blocks out of the way. You'll see I have a couple blocks here. And I'm going to use this as the wall just so you can see me a little better than if I was back there. So this is going to be my wall. To get into this, I found you have to be a little creative. So I'm going to take my front leg and sit a little bit as like a 90-90. So this is my foot on the wall, the sole of my foot on the wall. My leg is 90 degrees. My back leg is bent with the knee toward the wall. So I'm going to kind of move myself down and straighten at the same time. So I'll start to come down, and then I'm going to start to slide that back leg out. Pretend the wall is there in the back leg. And roll over into this version of Warrior 2. And kind of wiggle and adjust a little bit. Can take a different arm version to that if I'd like. So my back leg stays a little bit bent, and that's just really from this orientation. My hips don't want to open up all the way that way, but lying here and feeling gravity help this way to allow this opening across my pelvis, which is part of Warrior 2 pose, feels really nice. All right, I'm going to roll back up. So that's it for our Warrior 2 pose variations for today. Of course, there are many more ways to do this pose. These are some ideas to get you started, to help and encourage you to do your own practice, find your own version of the pose that works for your body. If you like the idea of practicing this way and want to explore more of my V.I.P series, I'll link it up right there. Thank you so much. Please show me that you enjoyed this by liking and commenting below for what else you'd like to see in the series. Have a great rest of your day.